All right. Let's see if this is actually live. Fucking cat is sneezing. Go. Okay, it seems all right. Okay, so today I haven't done a video in a while because I've been so busy dealing with everything that's been happening in Thailand prior to what started today, which was the lockdown. Um, Absolutely fucking brutal here. Not fun, and so that's why dealing with everything that comes with the lockdown, everything shutting, all the effects it has on any business I'm doing. Dealing with all that shit is the main reason why I haven't been able to do videos for basically almost the past week and a half. Feels like, apart from just a live stream. But now that the lockdown has really started, I will be uploading videos again, hopefully frequently. That's really kind of what I'm looking to do. Go back into gold, actually start trading again. I wasn't really trading gold at all for the last week and a half because I couldn't pay attention to the market. I was just so focused on other shit. The only thing that I have been doing that's kind of related to markets is I've been setting up random yield farms and stuff. So I'm going to be doing also videos on like my whole progress through yield farming, because I know it can be kind of confusing. And a lot of the people that create content about yield farms, they just make it sound way too complicated. And um, it was it was difficult initially to kind of figure out how to make all of it work, but I got it working now, so I'll do some content on that, just show you guys what I'm kind of doing with that. But anyway, to the main point of the video today, or the stream today, is I want to talk about gold today. I want to talk about crypto today, just kind of go through the whole market again. Gold's obviously in a pretty interesting place right now. Um, we've had, if you look here right now, we're looking at the day chart. I mean, we have had a pretty strong rebound off this initial low of 1750. Um, but especially in something that I brought up on the last live stream, I felt that a lot of the narratives right now involving gold and involving the dollar are just very, very mixed at the moment. Um, and it's just causing a very kind of mixed and volatile market. And if we look at the price action over the past week or so, since I haven't been really looking at gold at the moment, I mean, we've just been kind of choppy all over the place, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just been kind of fucking sideways mess, really, more than anything. Um, and that's kind of what I thought could happen. And I just feel like that's what we've gotten. We've just gone this kind of sideways mess where the market isn't really decided where it's going, right? With all the interest rate talk, but at the same time, the positive economic data, and but then there's kind of the uncertainty and blah 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 blah, all this kind of crap. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the CPI data is going to tell us tomorrow, and I think that's really the key thing that may potentially determine whether we're going to really actually continue above 1800 over the coming days and weeks, or if we're going to actually break potentially back below 1800 and then kind of retest the 1775, the 1760 strong support level here, and all that kind of price action again down there. That's, I think, going to be very, very interesting to see. If you guys aren't aware what the CPI is, it's basically a measurement of inflation. Okay, and tomorrow is when all the big CPI data comes out, normally on a monthly basis. And if you guys haven't been following the news or aren't that experienced gold traders, as everybody knows, the CPI data can heavily affect the gold price, right? A lot of people think that there's a strong correlation between gold and inflation, but not in the sense that like gold, or what most people believe is just that when inflation goes up, gold goes up, but that is totally not the case, especially when you're playing shorter term time frames and kind of this kind of Forex spot trading or margin trading. It's totally not true. In fact, if you look, for example, on June 10th, when the inflation rate, the core CPI month to month was 0.7, which was 0.3 points above the forecast. Of course, there was many other causes for this humongous dump, right? If we just go back to the day chart, but June 10th was here, this particular day. And look at that nice sell-off, right? But that sell-off was certainly initially triggered by the very high inflation numbers, right? On the overall CPI, we saw inflation numbers hitting 5%, which is just absurd, right? The Fed considers a healthy amount of inflation to be 2%. When we're talking at 5%, you're talking about crazy inflating prices, which is obviously going to be a huge, huge, huge issue for the economy and something that the Fed is going to have to address. That is what actually ended up causing the dump, right? Because as we saw, we had high inflation number that led to the Fed meeting and the narrative coming out of the Fed meeting that they potentially would raise interest rates sooner rather than later, and they would begin to taper asset purchases, right, or buying back of government bonds, etc., at sooner rather than later, and they're going to decrease the rate at which they're doing so. And all that narrative is what caused us, right, a few weeks back to become bearish on gold and bullish on the dollar, and that's what we really, really saw here. And now we've had kind of like a health. Honestly, if you're bearish on gold, we've had kind of a healthy, pullback in the sense that we had a huge dump. We had to pull back at some point, right? So now we've kind of hit this 1800 point, and obviously the narrative, the overall macroeconomic narrative is very mixed, and the price action is consequently really, really choppy. So we really want to see is the CPI data that's coming out tomorrow going to lead to further or more clarity rather on the actual direction of dollar and the actual direction of gold. If we look at the forecast for the July 13th CPI, they're actually expecting a decrease in the core CPI for the month. Sorry about that. They're actually expecting a decrease of 0.3 points from the previous of 0.7, right? Which would be in line with this narrative that the Fed is really pushing, that the inflation that we're experiencing now is transitory, that it's a inflation that we're experiencing because the economy took basically a massive hit due to a black swan event, right? The coronavirus. And because of that, now we're experiencing inflation as a result of the economy just kind of roaring back and like basically bouncing back from the huge loss that it initially suffered as a result of the pandemic. So if we actually were to meet this forecast, okay, so if we were that, it's going to actually be bearish for the dollar. Why is that? The reason that is because, or in my opinion, is that it's going to basically allow the Fed to kind of pull back a little bit on the interest rate talk, the asset tapering talk, and all those different types of things. They won't feel nearly as much pressure from the public, feel nearly as much pressure from whoever it may be to address the burgeoning inflation problem. Okay. So that's why I think that if we actually meet this forecast or even go a bit below it, so if inflation actually pulls back, it could actually be bullish for gold. Okay, so that's kind of counterintuitive, right, to the classic narrative of increase inflation, increasing gold price. No, what I'm saying is that if inflation actually decreases, we could, over the coming days and weeks, actually see gold rise back up and potentially look at getting back into the 1820 level and then the 1840 level, 1850 level, and so forth. Okay, we could really start retesting those kind of key support lines, or sorry, resistance ranges, right? Let me just draw this out a bit more here so we have a bit more to look at. There you go. So I do think that that could happen, right? It's all about these inflation or this CPI data right now is really all about like what is the data going to show, and therefore what can we then expect the Fed, like how are they going to react? Okay. Of course, if you actually look at the last three releases, we've always actually hit over the forecast at the moment, and inflation has been significantly higher, right? Especially in May, significantly higher than what was forecasted. Okay. Now in May, because people were still so adamant that the Fed would never do anything about it, they would never address raising interest rates, etc., we actually saw gold price continue to go up when we had that really, really high inflation target, right? Because of course, if inflation is really high and people aren't doing anything, or the Fed isn't doing anything about it, of course that's terrible for the dollar. Okay. But now we've seen that the Fed is willing to react, right, in June. So if we actually see a data release where we actually continue to stay at 0.7% or even go up back to 0.8% or 0.9%, if we see some type of release like that, I think that could be very, very detrimental actually to the price of gold. Push the narrative that um, the Fed needs to raise interest rates soon. We need to stop buying bonds soon in terms of the government, all those different types of things. And if we see that kind of narrative happen or get pushed out, I don't see why we, from in terms of the dollar chart standpoint and the DXY standpoint, I don't see why we don't easily just continue to go back up and retest 92.5 here, right? Initially, we broke it and we got rejected again. But if we get that kind of confirmation that or that kind of data that's really going to push the Fed to talk about interest rates more and more and more and more and more. And of course, these markets are really driven by these media narratives, right? These financial narratives. Then I see no reason why we can't go back to 92.5 and potentially beyond, right? So that's kind of what I'm really looking out for in terms of CPI. Let's see what happens. I really want to start getting and opening some positions again in gold. I'm definitely eyeing it. Just now that everything has finally settled down a bit in the sense that, well, businesses are suffering right now big time for sure, but there's just only so much I can do, so I have more time on my hands. um, I just Again, I'm just very, very hesitant to trade the CPI news at the moment. I'd much rather kind of, if I can get a really good price, maybe like I could and then kind of go along with the forecast, maybe I'll take a longer position on gold, expecting actually price to, or sorry, expecting CPI to be at the forecast or slightly below. Um, so maybe I'll do that just at this kind of price and with just how choppy everything's been. And if we just look at this general channel that's kind of built out between like here and just here, right? Um, I just feel like price is just not particularly attractive right now. And I don't know. I'm just not that interested in really opening a position here at the moment, just given how kind of choppy everything is. I really just rather see what the news comes out first, or like see how the data comes out, and then from there determine how we're going to continue or how I'm going to really open the position. Anyway, so that's it for gold for the moment. Um, oh, sorry. One last thing I do want to mention. Also, we actually saw over the last couple of days, right, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, over the last 2 days, we saw that we actually got a pretty nice bounce in terms of the 10-year Treasury yields back up here. This is most likely in expectation for the CPI news, right? Again, if the CPI data comes out lower than expected or at the forecast, so which is lower than previous, right? It's going to allow the Fed room to breathe, which means that they won't have to talk about raising interest rates, etc. so much. Raising actual interest rates is bad for yields too, because it makes government bonds way less attractive. So I think that some of this price action that's happening here, apart from it just being a natural rebound, is also people trading on the potential expectation, kind of buying the hype, selling the news, trading on the expectation that we could see a reduction in the inflation percentage or the inflation numbers right now. So anyways, let's see how this goes. But of course, this is also potentially going to be affecting gold price if the 10-year Treasury yields rate starts going up. Okay. Now let's just take a look at crypto. Let's see. So yeah, honestly, again, with crypto, not much has been going on. Um, or we're kind of in the exact same position as before. If anything, though, price has, as you can see, just become less and less volatile, and the volume in particular has just really just started to go down. Okay, so we have this kind of like coiling in price going on here at the same time. We have volume decreasing. This is essentially a wedging of price more than anything. And typically, what this signals, as we all know, that we're probably going to either break to the upside or to the downside at some point. Like something is probably going to trigger a break to the up or break to the downside. And right now, I mean, from purely the technicals, I still don't really understand or see how on earth anybody could say that price is looking bullish at the moment. We have not made any sort of new or higher high whatsoever, at least on the hour chart. And, or sorry, this is a day chart. Let's take actually a look at the hour chart. Yeah, I mean, even on the hour chart, we're not even setting fucking new higher highs. I mean, or higher lows. So just price just like from a technical standpoint, you can say whatever the hell you want, but volume is decreasing. Price is not hitting any sort of new highs. We're not really, all we're doing is every time we get a bigger bounce and people are claiming that, oh, look at this is a fucking bounce back, price just continues to kind of just like slump over and slump over and slump over. So from a technical standpoint, I don't see how anybody could say we're really bullish, or that there's some sort of rebound happening. And I see people still saying this all the time, and it just annoys me. But it is what it is, you know. If people want to believe that, despite what the price shows us, I mean that's fine. But it's you know, again, from a purely technical standpoint, there's no way that anybody can just look at these charts, even on the weekly chart, where we're now kind of actually falling below the 50 weekly at this point. Let's see how we actually close. I just don't see how anybody can claim that this is looking quite bullish right now. Yes, the fundamentals are looking good for the crypto market in general. You know, there's so many good projects right now. There's so many interesting projects being built. There's so much actual adoption happening now. I understand all of these things, but with that being said, does not mean whatsoever that price is going to be bullish. I mean, just look at the fucking charts. And again, if we are going to be more bullish, I mean, can somebody actually tell me what is going to be the catalyst? Like I just don't see it. EIP 1559 is just not going to be the catalyst. We would have seen way more movement here, but it's just not true. Like that's kind of like the issue that I have. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Again, I really, really, really hope that I'm wrong, but that's not the type of catalyst that's going to, pump the market when prices are at these levels, in my opinion. I don't really see it, you know. Um, I guess like, you could also just have some big old whale manipulation come in and just start pumping the market, at a certain point and we get that huge pump up. Yeah, sure, that would be great too. I mean, I guess, those things are kind of unexpected. And that type of shit certainly can happen in crypto and looking at Bitcoin charts or ETH charts or whatever. But again, the technicals here just don't look really that great. And it reminds this the the price action kind of really reminds me a little bit of this period after that initial run up in 2017 where everybody was just kind of trying to will it on, will it on, will it on, but just momentum and everything was just continuing to slow day by day by day. But everybody just kept on pushing. No, 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 it's gonna reverse, it's gonna reverse, it's gonna reverse. Like this kind of almost belief that it's like it can't get worse than this. But if there's one thing that if you've looked at crypto at any amount of time for like let's say longer than a year or not maybe a year, but let's say at least 2 to 3 years, if there's anything that you've learned during those times is that when it looks like price can't go any higher, it'll double. And when price looks like it can't go any lower, it will also fall double. It's just that's just how it is. Um, it's just how it's going to be when you're talking about a market that's just essentially built on so much hype and so much speculation. So um, I would really want us to see like when all this price action eventually coils and breaks to the up or downside. I will hope it's going to break to the upside, but I mean at the moment still we can't even get over the fucking 21 day. We just can't even. It's just constant weight right now, and again we're kind of getting back towards 30. And how many more times are we going to push below 30? I guess the more we continue to stay up it, I guess the more positive it looks overall. But I mean, more often than not, from a purely technical standpoint, soon enough, the seller demand or the bear demand, the bear pressure rather, just breaks eventually the floor, and then it just goes down a lot more. So I don't know. Let's see. It's also the summer. The summer always leads to very slow markets in general. That's something that 100% is there's some sort of truth or accuracy towards. Maybe when the summer's over, we could really see the actual momentum and the volume come back. Maybe just people get reinterested in it again. Maybe people are done, taking their holidays in the States. Good domestic tourism, I hear, is booming over there. I wish it was booming over here, but it's not. But yeah, there you go. So maybe that's what's just going to be, that it's just kind of a lull in the market right now. Um, but at the moment, again, um, its price is just kind of in a very, very, very weird place. I have to say, I just because I'm such a big ETH bull, like the longer that ETH does stay here, I'm still pretty adamant on not buying anything here at the moment or not really dollar cost averaging in here. But the longer we just stay at this 2000 range, or like even if we got to 1.7 or so forth, like I'm starting to get to the point where I may be interested in just like taking positions in all the time. Buy a couple $100 here, buy a couple $100 here, and just really start accumulating. I even may start just doing this week, just because you know we are seeing a coiling in price. So of course this could go totally against me, but I'm just starting to like I'm just so bullish on ETH overall compared to any other project that um, I still think that in the long term, if we're just really holding at this 2000 level, this is probably a good price. I mean, I easily see we can eventually get back up to here again, whether it's in like a couple of months or in a few months or if it's in a few years, it doesn't really matter. And I'm certain that we're going to probably break this as ETH continues to build that scarcity in inherently into its token economics. So, um, yeah, I am potentially looking at dollar cost averaging into here. If I do anything like that, I'll certainly inform on a video or something like that. Anyways, guys, that's enough rambling for the moment. I'm going to start releasing videos. I'll probably even do a video on gold just after I get off this, just to actually release like kind of like a video and not a stream. I'm going to try and do videos very regularly again. Maybe not every day because, again, I still need to do a lot of work on my businesses, but it's kind of getting to the point that you can only do so much. Um, so I am still busy on that, but I'll try and do a video at least every other day. Hopefully, I'll also do some reaction to the CPI data and see how price goes out for gold. Anyways, guys, take care.